Yeah, I'm gonna go and take this with you.
Good morning, everyone. In opening this meeting of the Statutory Planning Committee, I welcome you all and wish to advise that the meeting is being live streamed. Welcome to those that are logged into the meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing via the Commission's website or YouTube. Advise observers that committee members may refer to technical devices such as phones and laptops throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. In opening the meeting, I acknowledge that we meet today on the traditional land of the Noongar Nation, and I pay our respects to the elders past and present. We have no apologies today. All members are attending in person. Any applications for leave of absence, please? No, thank you very much. We move to item 1.3, disclosures of interest. Item 3.1, Member Franklin has declared a disclosure of interest on the precinct structure plan for Rockingham Strategic Centre. It's a pecuniary interest, direct pecuniary interest, in that Member Franklin advises that as principal planner for Franklin Planning, she provides planning services to Hames Charlie, who were contracted to the City of Rockingham for the preparation of the precinct structure plan. I believe that Member Franklin should leave the meeting for that particular item. Is there any dissent for that? No, thank you. On item 3.3, the precinct structure plan for Nedlands Village in Nedlands, Commissioner Lakey has declared an indirect pecuniary interest in that he is providing strategic advisory services to Hesperia. However, these are not associated with this project. My view is that Commissioner Lakey should leave the room. Is there any consent to that? No, thank you. On item 3.6, the development application for the conversion of the winery to a cafe, lot 801 Lakeway Drive, Kingsley. Member Moore has declared partiality interest as she was part of the Heritage Council, which considered the heritage aspects of the proposal and resolved to support the application. It's an impartiality interest. I have no objection to Member Moore staying in the room. Everyone agrees. Thank you. On item 3.6, again, the development application for the conversion of the winery to a cafe, Lakeway Drive, Kingsley. Commissioner Brooks has declared an impartiality interest, advising that she has worked with the proponent over a number of years on several similar buildings providing water management advice, but she has had no involvement with this particular site. So on the same basis that Commissioner Lakey has been providing services, I would suggest that Commissioner should leave the room. Is assent? Thank you. I also be an pecuniary interest rather than impartiality. Thank you. On item 3.1, I have declared a representation as much as I have met with the proponents and the local government on that particular matter. On item 3.2, again, a declaration of representation in as much as I have met the proponents and the City Council together with DPLH officers on that particular item. On item 3.3, declaration of representation in as much as I have met the officers of DPLH and the local government and the proponent on several occasions. And on item 4.1, again, a declaration of representation. I have been provided with no information that is not available to members. Are there any other declarations of interest? Thank you. Item 1.4, declaration of due consideration. Could all members indicate that they have? Thank you. Item 1.4.1, questions from members and responses from DPLH staff. We've had questions lodged by Commissioner Cole, Member Franklin and Commissioner Adair. The responses have been circulated. Are you happy with those responses? Thank you. Item 1.5, previous minutes, the minutes of the meeting of the 13th of November. Could I have a move and a second that we adopt those minutes, please? Moved by Commissioner Cox and by Member Knight. No dissent. Thank you. We move to item 2, deputations and presentations. This is going to take several hours, so it will be a long process. I just ask everyone to be patient as we move through the deputations. And I will hand over to the Manager of Commission Business, Sam, to introduce this. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I welcome everyone that is present in order to make a deputation today, either via Zoom or in person. If you are attending in the boardroom in person, you'll be invited to join the table. And if you're attending via Zoom, you will be promoted to a panellist via Zoom to deliver your deputation. You have been advised of your allocated time, which will be managed by a timer, which will appear on the screen, and you will hear 2 alert tones. The first at 30 seconds remaining and the second when your time has concluded. If you do have a PowerPoint presentation this morning, this will be displayed on the screen throughout your deputation, and you're requested to advise as you wish to advance the slides. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. The first deputation, item 2.1, is on the precinct structure plan for Cardinia District Centre for determination this morning. It's item 3.2 on the agenda, and we're going to be joined by Callum Thatcher from Element Advisory. Callum will be attending via Zoom.
Yes. Callum, I have just promoted you to panellist. If you can just accept that request, please. If you can hear us. Thanks, Callum, and we'll just need you to turn your video on, please.
Thank
there
you.
We go. Thanks very much.
Good morning, Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the time this morning to present. My name is Callum Thatcher, speaking on behalf of the landowner of Cardinia Park Shopping Centre and the applicant of the precinct structure plan being considered today. The modifications presented are largely supported, and we thank DPLH staff for their work to date on this proposal. In reviewing this modification to the precinct structure plan, it was noted the imposition of a 5-star Green Star rating being required for the development within the centre core. Whilst it's recognised the importance of sustainability within new development, it must be viewed with consideration to the context and nature of the development at hand. In respect to the officer's report, a 5-star Green Star rating is not commonly applied, a requirement for new development. Often the sustainability requirement is only imposed where development is seeking significant discretion to a planning framework and is seeking design excellence. The ARCODEs are very clear in providing sustainability initiatives for multi-storey development, and in our view, would be sufficient sustainability measures for future residential development, given the level of intensity and development contemplated under the structure plan. Broadly applying the Green Star rating to an existing shopping centre asset, which is currently undergoing redevelopment, is also problematic for future stages. Having to retrospectively assess and integrate these sustainability measures is highly problematic for an existing asset and its future stages, and this requirement should not be upheld. We also understand that very few shopping centres have actually achieved a 5-star Green Star rating. These centres that have been able to achieve this feat are often major regional shopping centres, much greater in intensity than Cardinia. This requirement is not appropriate for an existing asset and district level centre to have to conform to future stages. So request SPC to remove this sustainability requirement, as we believe it is onerous for the level of development contemplated. The ARCODEs provide suitable criteria should residential development be proposed on within the centre core. And finally, it's unreasonable for this rating to broadly apply to an existing commercial asset that is currently being revitalised. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Callum. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Callum following the deputation? No questions. Thank you, Callum.
Thank you.
We move to item 2.2, deputation on the precinct structure plan for Nedlands Village. With us this morning for determination, it's item 3.3 on the agenda. We're going to be joined at the table by Alex Watson, Callum Morton Smith and Anthony Morton. Thank you, gentlemen. leave. Thank you, Commissioner Lakey. Thank you, Alex. You have 3 minutes in which to address the committee. I note that you're speaking in support of the recommendation, so try and raise any issues that are new to the committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman, and good morning to the committee. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. CLE acts for Human Urban, formerly Hesperia, on this project, and they're represented by Callum Morton-Smith. We're in favour of DPLH's recommendation that the committee support the Nedlands Village Precinct Structure Plan, subject to the modifications appended to the agenda. We extend our thanks to the staff at DPLH for their work on this proposal over recent months. The area covers 7.4 hectares and approximately 3/4 is available for redevelopment in the short term. The Commission gave consent for CLE to prepare a PSP in August 2023, and the PSP was lodged with the City of Nedlands in October 2023. It has been presented to the City's Design Review Panel, advertised for public comment and received favourably and supported subject to modifications by the Council. The lifting of the residential aged care memorials on the 3 parent titles has been ordered by the Supreme Court, and the administrative process of their removal is underway at Landgate. Redevelopment of the site for residential and commercial purposes is responsive to the City's local planning strategy, which identifies the site as a redevelopment area with the objective of enabling a comprehensive plan to allow the maximum potential redevelopment of the site. PSP proposes a mix of townhouses, apartments and commercial floor space consistent with the strategy. PSP strikes a balance between delivering yield and respecting existing interfaces. To achieve this, it proposes a transition in height from 3 stories in the southeast to 6 to 10 stories toward the northwest. The built form controls in the PSP have robust justification. Townhouse lots, ARCO's variations in the PSP, standalone design guideline, prepared with reference to a comprehensive design testing exercise involving 5 of Perth's leading residential architects. Apartment sites, test fit designs by architects MJA were undertaken to support decision making about the built form controls, PSP, lot layout. 5,900 square metre park, equating to 9.9% of calculated POS, will be provided at the centre of the new precinct. Local streets will be extended to streets or pedestrian linkages. The PSP will lead to an improvement in POS provision for the area and an increase in local tree canopy. During the assessment process, modifications were agreed with the City and DPLH. These include the addition of a pedestrian access way between Carrera Street and the central POS, the addition of built form to the southwesternmost apartment site, and refined built form controls. Progression of the PSP will support the supply of a mix of housing and commercial floor space in Nedlands. Human Urban intends to move quickly, and work will commence this coming summer pursuant to subdivision and development approvals being sought in parallel. Thank you for your time, and we're available for any questions.
Good. Thank you very much, Alex. Committee members, are there any questions, please? No questions. Thank you. Thank you, Callum. We'll move to item 2.3, deputation from Dr. Richard Stewart, the Standard Structure Plan Coppin Road, Mundell, item 3.4 on the agenda. Dr. Stewart is attending via Zoom. Sam?
Good morning, Dr. Stewart. If you could hear me, can you please turn your video on? There we go. Thanks very much. You'll just need to unmute. Thank you.
Right, ready to go.
Thank you. Richard, you've got a PowerPoint presentation. If you could just ask when the slides are forwarded, we'll do that for you.
Okay, start with number 1 slide. Right. Firstly, I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to make a deputation. Move to the second slide, please. Right, my interest in the matter is that I have direct skin in the game. My wife and I occupy a property within the proposed SP81 development. That property is shown in red in the PowerPoint presentation there. We've occupied this property since 2011, and the development directly affects us. Next slide, please. One thing I'd like to clarify is something which is not really clear from the documentation presented with the agenda, that we are not a participant in the development. We don't intend to subdivide our property or install any access roads or carry out any clearing of vegetation. Reasons for this, firstly, we love it here. It's a great place to live. It's our home. And secondly, it would not be economic. Our property is landlocked in an enclosed corner of the development, and the cost and risk of installing roads and services are disproportionate to the value of any subdivided blocks that we could produce. Next slide, please. Specific concerns, as I say, the proposed structure plan shows a road, access road passing through our property, and we'd like to clarify to the committee that this is not happening. And we'd like to urge the committee to consider the bushfire implications of this in their deliberations. And overall, we believe the layout and the zoning of the LSP area were badly thought through from the outset. Access is poor and not appropriate for the ill-considered R5 zoning. Last slide, please. Okay, we would like to point out we've no objection to sensible development, which is in keeping with the amenity of the area. But we do believe that the proposed suburban style R5 development is just inappropriate to where we are, and we'd like to register our objection to that. But we would like to respectfully request the committee to consider an increase in the lot size to a minimum of 1 acre per lot. This would be much more appropriate to the existing environmental and community characteristics of the area. It would allow the developers to get a return on their investment, and the new homeowners can join our strong local community and would be welcomed. Thank you to the committee, and if there are any questions, I'll be pleased to respond.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stewart. Could I just ask you, were you consulted as to whether or not you wish to be part of the structure plan?
The developers have spoken to us. I would point out at the time of rezoning, we were not consulted. I mean, I've no doubt it was put up on some website somewhere, but nobody paid us the courtesy of asking if we had any input on the rezoning of our property, which we occupied at the time.
Good, thank you very much. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Dr. Stewart? No questions. Thank you very much, Dr.
Chairman.
Sorry, Commissioner.
Chair, I just wonder if it may be appropriate to explain to Dr. Stewart his request in relation to, we're here to determine, Dr. Stewart, the application that's in front of us. And so your request for minimum lot sizes and things is something that can be taken into consideration, but not generally form part of a determination.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, we've put it out there, so I'm pleased that you are considering it.
Thank you very much. It is not a matter that's on the agenda today. We're dealing with the structure plan, but we take on board the comments you've made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, please? No, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Stewart.
Thank you.
We move to item 2.4 on the same matter. We're going to be joined by Jacqueline Softly of the Mundaring Residents Against Inappropriate Development. And again, Jacqueline is appearing over Zoom.
Hello.
Good morning. Jacqueline, you've got a PowerPoint presentation which will appear on the screen. You've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee, and could you please notify us when you wish the PowerPoint to move forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to make this deputation on behalf of our group. I'll be speaking about community concerns relating to SP 81. There was considerable community opposition to this proposal last year when it went before the Shire. In fact, there were 101 submissions to the Shire and only 4 supported SP 81. There's a summary of these submissions in your agenda papers today. People raised concerns about zoning and density. We understood that the LPS 4 was based on flawed data. Environmental impacts, especially the loss of many black cockatoo habitat trees and impact on wildlife corridors. Bushfire risk, which is huge. In fact, there's a bushfire alert very close to this site at this moment as we speak. Increased traffic and road safety issues that will impact the community. Drainage and stormwater concerns, which exist and will only be exacerbated by this proposal. And flawed and inaccurate developer reports, which minimise the negative impact on the environment and the community. For example, the Flora and Fauna report didn't use the national benchmark for identifying black cockatoo habitat trees, resulting in far fewer trees than actually exist on the site. In fact, 341 trees are at risk. Community concerns were vindicated by submissions and comments from government authorities, including DFES, and the Shire itself agreed that LPS4 was not suitable for this land. Next slide, please. Please don't dismiss our concerns as NIMBYism. Submissions showed that the local community is not against development, but it must be appropriate, safe, environmentally sound, sustainable development. For example, the recently approved North Parkerville development. To be sustainable, blocks should be between 1 and 3 acres and in keeping with surrounding land. The DPLH schedule of modifications in the report does not address our concerns about SP81. Any developments must be appropriate to the area. Next slide, please. The SP81 proposal is not the answer to the housing shortage. Half-acre blocks in the hills are not the answer. These blocks won't be affordable. It's estimated they'll cost upwards of $500,000 for the land alone, and building costs are much higher in the hills. The environment will suffer greatly. The community will bear the negative impacts of inappropriate, unsustainable development. Who will benefit? Only the developers who saw the opportunity to make money from a rezoning that was based on a flawed local planning scheme. Please support our community, the Shire, and our precious hills environment by not approving SP81. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Jacqueline? Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move to item 2.5, again on the same issue. Going to be joined by Peter Brazier from Safe Perth Hills. And even though it's noted here that Peter is attending in person, I believe he is coming on Zoom.
Hello.
Good morning, Peter. Welcome to the Planning Committee. Peter, you've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee. You do have a PowerPoint presentation which will appear on the screen. If you could just indicate when you want the slides advanced, please. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm not representing Safe Perth Hills. I'm just a resident opposed to this development. Next slide, please. All structure plans are required to comply with state planning policies. SPP 3.7 element 3 says infill developments with 10 or more lots need to provide a perimeter road. Section 5.1 of the guidelines says that structure plans should respond to the bushfire risk at the interface with vegetation on adjoining land with hazard separation, like a perimeter road. Next slide, please. DFES, the WA's highest authority on bushfire safety, recommend SP81 have a perimeter road. It assists in providing separation between future development and bushfire-prone vegetation. While there are some exemptions, DFES believe there is no reason a perimeter road could not be incorporated in a structure plan design for this site. Next, thanks. The Shire agrees with DFES and recommends WAPC refuse SP81 for a number of reasons, one of them being it does not have a perimeter road as required. Next slide, thank you. DPL in their report contend that SP81 does not require a perimeter road. Reason one being because the development will result in improvements to the local road network and provides a broader community benefit. This outweighs the importance of providing a perimeter road for the purposes of hazard reduction. Is this justifiable? Next slide, please. It is not justifiable because the aim of a perimeter road, according to policy, is to help separate areas of permanent classified vegetation adjoining the subject site from the proposed lots. A perimeter road is to protect the residents within the structure plan area, not necessarily to provide a broader community benefit. The structure plan could be designed with a perimeter road and provide the same benefit to the broader community if required. Next slide, please. DPLH's reason 2 for accepting non-compliance. The majority of existing vegetation within the proposed lots will be removed, providing a separation from the vegetation within the rural residential lots to the south. Is this justifiable? Next slide, please. Reason 2 is not justifiable. The map in front of you shows the list area is surrounded by heavily vegetated rural residential lots on all boundaries, not just the south. Furthermore, the most dangerous bushfire weather conditions occur from the west, southwest, east, and southeast. Next slide, please. In conclusion, failure to include a perimeter road will place residents in the subdivision at greater risk from bushfires. DFAS and the Shire of Mandarin recommend the inclusion of a perimeter road to be compliant. SP 81 is shown to be non-compliant with SPP 3.7. Therefore, the Commission must refuse SP 81 as there is no good reason to accept non-compliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Peter? No questions. Thank you for the deputation, Peter.
Thank you.
We move to item 2.6 on the same matter. We're going to be joined by Debbie Brazier on Zoom.
Where am I? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning. We will advance your slides at your request, please. So you've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee. Over to you. Thank you.
Before I start the clock, I'd also like to advise that I'm not representing Save Perth Hills. I don't know how that came up on our next to our names. I'm just a concerned resident living in the local area.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Debbie Brazier and I'm opposed to SP 81. In 2014, the upzoning from R2.5 to R5 and LSP4 was based on an administrative error regarding the description of the vegetation as primarily cleared and suitable for close development, giving the site limited protection. This aerial photo from 2014 clearly shows that the site was actually primarily forested. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Mandarin Shire recommend to refuse SP 81 for a number of reasons. Reason 4 states that the subject site was incorrectly described in the Shire's local planning strategy. The site found that at least 65% of remnant vegetation cover remains, suggesting that 9.2 hectares of native vegetation will be cleared. Next slide. The DBCA submission states that the site is significant for the survival of WA's black cockatoos and should be protected. Our Shire classified the site as a local natural area, stating that the site contains portions of high quality vegetation and habitat, and the Shire's local biodiversity strategy classified the site as a local natural area that should be protected. This proposed development has been referred to the Federal Environment Minister under the EPBC Act and is still being assessed. Next slide. Under the EPBC Act, the proponent was required in December 2023 to make a more detailed floral and vegetation assessment. Please compare the differences in the reports. The 2023 survey found 9 hectares of high quality forage habitat with a score of 10, the highest score possible, highlighting the significance of the area. Next slide. This map from the EPBC survey highlights in green the number of habitat trees that will be bulldozed for this development. The red dots highlight the pitiful number of trees that will be spared. Next slide. There are clear reasons for refusal of SB 81. LPS 4 upzoning was primarily due to an administrative error, and the validity of this upzoning should be questioned and investigated. This error provides justification to remove the lawful environmental protection of this significant black cockatoo site. The site is nationally environmentally significant, with 9 hectares of high-quality foraging habitat, 340 habitat trees, and 28 nesting hollows. SB 81 is non-compliant with State Planning Policy 2, which seeks to minimize adverse impacts on high biodiversity conservation valued land. Therefore, please consider this. 1 acre lots, R2.5, would be acceptable to our community and by preserving and protecting the majority of the cockatoo habitat trees, our unique amenity of the area, and it would be compliant with SPV2. I ask you today to please refuse SB 81. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Once again, I'll just point out that we're not dealing with zoning, but we take your comment on board regarding your preference for R2.5 rather than R5. Any questions, please, of Debbie? Can I come back, Debbie, to the EPBC Act assessment? You said that that assessment hasn't been completed yet. Do you know at what stage it is?
Yeah, I think it's only in the assessment process, assessment stage. I don't think it's moved very far.
Okay, thank you. We can prosecute that further later in the meeting. There are no questions, so thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
We move to item 2.7 on the same matter, the Coppin Road Standard Structure Plan. We're going to be joined in person by Simon O'Hara from State West Planning, Brian Hunt and Paul van der Mosel. Gentlemen, if you could join us at the table, please. I mean, you don't have a PowerPoint presentation. You've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee. To you, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm with State West Planning. We are the applicants. We've reviewed the recommendation and the modifications proposed. We have no objections to those. Our client owns or has agreements in place for the land shown as stage 1 of the structure plan area, which is page 1002 of your agenda. They have been in regular contact with all of the landowners and have had their cooperation throughout the process to allow specialists to access their sites to produce the specialist report. Understanding the different ambitions of the other landowners has significantly influenced the structure plan design because we appreciate there are different ambitions. For example, a key element of the entire process has been resolving the historical road configuration in the area, which has 6 dead-end roads leading into the structure plan area. There are 50 homes that currently use these dead-end roads for their access. The broader community bushfire safety benefits of connecting those roads up to provide through access is significant and is endorsed in the officer's report. Stage 1 creates lots on a through road system connecting to Thomas via Hobbit to Baggins End. Further, the lots within stage 1 have all been designed to enable achievement of building areas rated at BAL 29 or better, even if the adjoining private properties are not developed. Stage 1 also provides road connections to the adjoining lots to enable them to subdivide as and when their owners want to, and this will provide through connections to the remaining dead-end roads. We acknowledge that the subdivision that would follow the structure plan, should it be approved, will result in the loss of vegetation. I would ask the committee to note that the flora survey was identified that the site has no threatened ecological communities. It has no threatened priority or priority flora. It's classified, its vegetation condition is classified as completely degraded to very good. There were no areas of excellent or pristine vegetation on the site, both higher classifications than very good. Very good is defined as Vegetation structure altered, obvious signs of disturbance, presence of aggressive weeds, dieback logging and grazing. It's a mid-range type of vegetation. We also acknowledge that the subdivision will result in the loss of potential black cockatoo trees. As mentioned in the officer's report, we have referred the proposal to the Commonwealth for assessment, and we have been actively engaged with them to deal with on-site mitigation based on the retention of potential habitat trees where possible and the establishment of a local offset. Because the size of the lot's 2,000 square metres, standard residential size in the Shire and much of the Perth Hills, the sites don't need to be made builder ready, which means that many trees can actually be retained on site. Wholesale clearing the vegetation is not required, even to achieve APZs. The offset will address both habitat trees and foraging. In addition, the amount of land required to deal with the offset is determined using a multiplier factor, generally around 3 times the amount of land that is being cleared. I'm out of time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Simon. Can I just ask you, at what stage has the EPBC Act assessment, what stage has that reached?
We're well advanced. We have been in discussions with them fairly consistently over the last probably year. John Stevenson from DBCA has found a site. The way the system apparently works, and it's relatively new to me, but is that the federal government rely on the DBCA to assist in finding potential sites. John is the person charged with that. He has found a site. It's within 11 or 12 kilometres of this particular site, so it's local. And DBCA are going through their assessment to make sure it's all okay.
Thank you very much. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Simon? Thank you, Commissioner Adair.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on that. So it hasn't been advertised yet, still being assessed in other words. Your actual assessment from the federal government has not been advertised for comment, or has it?
Perhaps I'm getting a nod from Paul. Paul van der Mosel's here as well. He'll be best placed to answer that one.
I was hoping that Paul was here.
Hi.
Thanks, Paul.
Chairman. Yes, the Commonwealth process for this project, it was referred as deemed to be a controlled action by preliminary documentation. The Commonwealth Department, DQ, then requests further information that needs to be put into the preliminary documentation report or package. And once that information has been gathered, the preliminary documentation gets advertised for public comment. So we're at the gathering the extra information that they've requested, and one of those was doing another spring survey this year, and as Simon said, it repeated the previous surveys, no rare flora. The one item left to do is to bed down the offset site. As John Stevenson from DBCA has identified a site, we don't need much land for this site. The Hills region DBCA officers are looking at the site to make sure it is cockatoo habitat, which it will be. It's anything in the hills, Jarrah, Marion, woodland. And once we've got the DQ officers satisfied it's a good offset, it gets advertised then.
Thank you. I am very familiar with the process. I just wanted to know where you were in it. Thank you.
Thank you. While you're there, Paul, what is the size of the offset site?
Offset site is a lot larger than this project needs. 2 reasons. One, the size of the offset for this, I should know offhand, but it's not very big. It's about 15 hectares. So, but there is another project in the hills, which was mentioned earlier today. I won't go through it. That also needs an offset of a much larger scale. So rather than do piecemeal purchasing sites, John's looking at a bigger site to satisfy all the offset. So, yeah, so 15 hectares is the quantum that we're looking for.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Cole, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Look, I understand you're going down the offset path, but I was interested in the fact that you're having about a third of your POS as physical and 2/3 as cash in lieu. The Shire's obviously expressed a view that there's 10% public open space and they're not keen to take on management of pockets of public open space everywhere. But had you considered additional public open space within the structure plan area at any point in order to help retain some of the habitat trees?
Yes, we've gone through a dozen or so iterations of design. In the course of that, we looked, amongst other things, as protection of vegetation in there as public open space. That creates a number of issues. One is that it is contrary to Council's adopted public open space strategy, and we have been advised throughout this process by the council staff that that they didn't want any other than improved access and road frontage by expanding the existing public open space. And the staff at the council we've been working closely with them throughout all this, and as you're aware, they supported the application. But the other issue to do with creating a public open space, let's just say for the sake of it, in the middle of the structure plan area, is that then creates a fire hazard in there. And so we were quite comfortable in going with staff's recommendations to not have it.
Thank you. Any further questions, please?
Sure, I have another question.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you for that. And also just wanted to seek your view on the perimeter road that's been put forward, noting the access points that you do have in the structure plan.
Okay. We've got Mike Scott from Bushfire Pro Planning, who will be able to better answer that than me.
Thank you.
I didn't quite catch your question, but I gather it was about the perimeter
Just
road.
giving you an opportunity to address the issue of the perimeter road and to talk to the access points that you do have within the structure plan.
Right. Okay. The perimeter road, I'll just pull back a bit. It's with the guidelines is a risk-based planning document, and it does point out a perimeter road in the guidelines. However, in certain circumstances, it's to put in a perimeter road, and that's exactly what the subdivision here or the structure plan here will actually increase or potentially increase the risk to people if you have a perimeter road. The reason being is when the lots are developed or potentially developed, you don't want to leave your house and head towards a bush. You're better off heading towards a low threat area. And the way this is designed, you'll be heading into a low threat area towards other arterial roads. So it'll actually lead you away from the threat. And the roads there were, I think, 6 dead end roads. And then this will open up those 6 roads. So there'll be multiple access for residents to depart into low threat areas and then head out any direction. And there's also for emergency services coming in, it's safer for emergency services rather than work around a perimeter road is to work around a low threat area where these roads will be. And the reason being, if the threat, which is a bush when it's alight, they'll have houses that will be built to bushfire construction standards as a shield if they're caught in the fire front. Otherwise, it'll be just mop up and they've got access to people's yards.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you. I've got a question on the same matter. We've heard from Dr. Stewart earlier, a landowner within proposed stage 2 of the development, that he has no intention to participate in any further subdivision. Effectively, that would remove one of your access roads. How's that going to impact upon the bushfire planning?
If I can start on that, you may supplement it. So when we were designing the road layout, we were conscious of different landowners not necessarily wanting to proceed with any subdivision today, tomorrow, or maybe never. So, but we had the structure plan area defined by the council as to the area that we need to address. So we had to plan on those. We knew that our client would be able to, wanted to go ahead and do development. So we had to design the road system so that we could make it SPP 3.7 compliant, even if nobody else subdivided in the area. And so that's what we have done. It's compliant in that we achieve we achieve appropriate setbacks from exterior areas, assuming that they are forested. So we've got 21 and 27 metre setbacks required depending on the slope of the land. And so the lots contained within stage 1 can achieve that and still have a buildable area on them. And we have a through road system contained entirely within our client's land. And we've thrown in a couple of roads connections that join up with the people who have expressed no intention to subdivide at this point in time, so that should they change their minds or circumstances change in another way, they can then connect through to Gamgee, for example, and through to Gill Lane and to Grancy.
Thank you very much. Any further? Thank you, Member Franklin.
Yes, following on, we're obviously aware of the intentions for those in stage 3. Could you clarify the intentions of the landowners in stage 2, which incorporates the road reserve Gill Street?
Yeah, the landowner, both of those properties front Grancy. The one that front, the northern one that also fronts Thomas, the owner of that property is someone that we know. He does subdivisions in the Shire, and he's purchased the property to do a subdivision. The property to the south of that has the main frontage to Grancy, we also know that person. I've personally known him for 35 years. He's not interested at the moment, but he has a number of properties around the Shire, and he buys them, sits on them, and then we wait to see. He's in real estate. So we would anticipate that when things are finished and there's green lights, he may change his view. Obviously, I can't say what he will do because he's a different person to me, but that's his situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if I confused you. I meant that Dr. Stewart is in stage 3, not stage 2. But thank you. Any further questions, please? No further questions. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your.
Thank you.
It's a deputation on item 3.5, subdivision of lot 301 Stock Road, Bullsbrook. And I invite Dan Lees, Anthony Rowe and Jamie Clough to join us at the table. Thank you, gentlemen. You've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee. You do have a PowerPoint presentation which will appear on the screen. You can just indicate when you want those slides advanced, and over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Good morning, committee members, and thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of the approval of this 3-lot subdivision application. With me.
Speak up, please, Dan. Sorry.
Yep.
Speak up. The microphone is where the green lights are in the roof.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With me are Anthony Rowe, Bushfire Principal from Emerge Associates, and Jamie Clough, representing the landowner. This application proposes only 2 additional lots as compared to the 45 lots previously approved by the broader subdivision. This application has a recommendation for approval from the City of Swan, subject to readily implementable conditions. Next slide, please. The site is somewhat of a legacy scenario, with vehicle access provided from Great Northern Highway via private driveway licence across land to the west, which is primarily sealed driveway. The site has frontage to the unconstructed Stock Road Reserve, with 2-wheel drive vehicle access available from the site down to the highway, down a steep gravel track within the road reserve. Next slide, please. This application seeks to create 2 additional lots for additional houses for the next generation of family ownership. There is inherently less bushfire risk for 2 additional houses for existing family members as compared to the 45 houses that would introduce new residents who are less familiar with the bushfire risk environment. This speaks to the fundamental objective of State Planning Policy 3.7. Timing-wise, should you grant your approval today, by the time the 2 future houses would be ready for occupation, this portion of Stock Road is being constructed by the Northern Subdivider. In this regard, it is only a matter of time until this current access arrangement and the interim emergency access way is resolved by the construction of a connecting road network that will provide multiple access points in the event of a bushfire. This is readily acknowledged in the Officer report. Next slide, please. This slide provides a visual representation of the access arrangements and the interim emergency access way, which is shown in yellow. This will provide a beneficial outcome for the Shady Hills residents to the east at an earlier date than the anticipated construction of this portion of Stock Road. There are at least 50 existing homes within the Shady Hills estate that will immediately benefit from this improved safety outcome by the construction of the EAW. Next slide, please. The emergency access way is proposed as an interim arrangement, as is noted in the Officer report, and will be constructed to the City of Swan's specifications, which are contained in their recommendation for approval. The EAW meets the intent of the bushfire guidelines and based on the net benefit on offer to not only this site, but the Shady Hills residents to the east. Respectfully, we would note that this subdivision warrants your approval. So thank you very much for your time. And as I said, Anthony Road and myself are available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Dan. Committee members, are there any questions? Deputation. No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We move to item 2.9, a deputation on the application for the conversion of the winery to the cafe on lot 801, number 10 Lakeway Drive, Kingsley. It's item 3.6 on the agenda. We are joined in person by Deborah and Barry Kitto. Thank you. If you could please join us at the table, and I believe via Zoom, joined by Raymond Smith and Brad.
On YouTube. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I can advise that Raymond Smith and Brad Short are not appearing via Zoom, and we have instruction that they are just observing the meeting via YouTube.
Thank you very much. So Deborah and Barry, welcome. You've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee, so over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and the committee for letting us a chance to talk today. My name is Deborah Kitto and I'm one of the residents of Lakeway Drive, representing the other 11 properties that are directly opposite the proposed redevelopment and car park. I'm personally not against the redevelopment, and most of the residents on that street are not opposed to the building redevelopment because the double fencing, the car park, and I saw it, there's no visual amenity there at the moment. What we're proposing through this deputation is to ensure there's some control mitigation measures that are put in place for conditions that we feel will impact our tranquil residential area. From the public consultation, there was proposed objections to the hours of operation. The proposed hours were from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. We're asking that you consider a change of business hours of operation to be defined and to be inclusive of any needs for setup, cleanup, closing, and etc. We're asking that the timeframes are 6 till 9, 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, and 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sunday. This is to define what time we can expect vehicles set up noise in the mornings and close up of functions at night. This is a residential zoned area and it's not a commercial zoned area. In conclusion, we strongly urge the Commission to please consider the impact to the residents that are doing their best to support this new business. That's my first point. My second point is the car parking bays. The current 81 parking bays and the 3 bays that will be in the new service yard meet the local requirements for the 312 proposed patrons. This, however, does not consider the additional users of the car park. Additional 10 to 20 staff required for the cafe, the parking for families or groups that will be utilising the new proposed regional park boardwalk and playground facilities for recreation, and the everyday recreational users that currently park at only 350 metres away on verges and undesignated parkings on Hocking Road. There is at least 8 to 10 cars in peak recreational hours that park to run, walk and cycle. The staff and visitors at Meth Aged Care Facility that is also on Hocking Road, the overflow of visitors and staff are also on the verges and undesignated parking on Hocking, and opening this car park will put pressure on the cafe patrons that are also using that car park. We're also requesting that within the development, there is a development with a maintenance plan is produced on the grounds of defining who is responsible for the upkeep of the landscaping of both the grounds and the car park, because at the moment that's not being maintained. In my conclusion, we strongly urge the Commission to please consider the other users of this car park. So once it's made available for use, these additional recreational users will not only impact the cafe parking, this will in turn impact the residents, and there has been no consideration in the proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Deborah or Barry? Thank you, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Deborah, for your deputation. Could you just repeat the hours of operation that you were seeking? Was it 6 to 9 Monday to Saturday, and 7 till 9 on Sunday?
Yes. Because we are directly opposite.
Inclusive of.
But inclusive of them opening, setting up and closing, so that doesn't happen outside those hours.
Thank you.
Just because of the vicinity of where the residents are to the facility.
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Any further questions, please? Thank you for your deputation.
Barry's got one other point.
Barry, over to you. Sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm also, which just happens that we're the same family, but representing the people, particularly the people from 11 to 33, 34 along, that are only 50 metres across the street. It's an unusual situation in that you've got a regional park with a residential area, and then we've got a heritage building that's now going to be commercial, all in the one little thing, and we've all got to cohabitate there. So one of the main concerns for the people, particularly across the road, is that there's a new crossover is going to be installed to a service yard. The service yard will conduct rubbish bins and all those types of activities there. Now, there's a waste management plan that's generating reasonably large amounts of rubbish, and they've nominated a truck size that will be coming to collect that. Our concern is the noise. We don't mind having our rubbish truck coming at 6 o'clock in the morning collecting our rubbish. That's life, but not every day. So we'd like to try and limit the amount of truck movements, and we're talking about reversing beepers and trucks having to go up this incline back onto the road 50 metres from people's bedrooms. We'd like to try and have consideration put to maybe pushing the service truck hours out to maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, just as a consideration, a noise consideration to the residents that live there. The normal, the other noise management issues with functions and things that will happen at this facility will be taken care of in due course with the planning, but this is a particular point that is going to be hard to live with, and like consideration given to maybe the trucks could be limited for a more reasonable time, 6 o'clock in the morning. In the waste management plan, they do give an indication that trucks could frequent the area on any day of the week, up to 3 days of the week.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Great. Thank you very much, Barry. That's all understood. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Barry? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to item 2.10 on the same matter, the conversion of the winery to a cafe. We're going to be joined by Nigel Foakey, our guest holdings. Nigel will join us over Zoom. Nigel has a PowerPoint presentation.
Good morning, Nigel. If you could hear us, can you please turn your video on? Good morning, Nigel, again. If you can hear us, can you please turn your video on? It appears we might have some communication issues with Nigel Oaking, Mr. Chairman. Do you wish to move to the next deputation? Oh, there we go. I think we've just got some connection now. Good morning, Nigel. Can you hear us? You'll just need to unmute your microphone, please.
Apologies there. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thanks, Nigel. Welcome to the Statutory Planning Committee meeting. You've got a PowerPoint presentation which is now on the screen. If you could just indicate when you'd like the slides advanced, please, and you've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee. Thank you.
Fantastic. Look, I'd like also to address any committee concerns in response to the previous people who did the previous deputation as well. So I'll zip through this. If you could perhaps just press forward the current slides every couple of seconds until you land at the overall site plan, just as I talk through this little preamble. Look, it really is a privilege to have the opportunity to adaptively reuse this site. It's been a bit of a lost site for a good 20 years now, and it was the subject of a previous development approval which included a cafe, which was more intensive. We've worked with 3 architects. We've done 20 other state-listed heritage places. Just keep going to the actual site plan. Sorry, the floor plan. And we're really, really pleased with the very sort of considered approach that we've taken to this development. If you could just forward a couple more. And the next one. There we go. Which, unlike the previous development, which was approved, this is contained entirely within the building and doesn't seek to put any new imposing structures on the land or on the site as well. If you could just keep going forward, you could see here a lot of the thematics here, and the next one are about and the next one are about taking the extant fabrics such as the old winery vats and making them an integral part of the experience. We've really thought about every single component in here. There's over 100 individual heritage artifacts, and each one has been considered. If you could just keep moving. I just want to give you a sense of how the site, even some of them, the ones you can see here, will actually be adaptively reused as ablution facilities. The next one, if you could just move forward. And the next one. This just starts to give you a view into the main hall. And the next one. Just keep scrolling forward and I'll keep talking. You can see that we're actually bringing to life the old winery production space. The drainage swales are being interpreted with flooring. We walk down a ramp here. The next one, coming into the space where these vats are converted into seating and booths. And the next one. There you go again. If you keep moving forward. And again, the cafe sort of takes the central facility. And again, just keep scrolling all the way through every couple of seconds. I want to do it within the time frame. We've got the old Bond store, and the next one, part of the dining area, which is an old steam boiler that will be fully restored. and the old vats, which will create a walled dividing section into part of the dining room, and 2 community meeting rooms that are often part of our cafes, which are free spaces for the community to meet. An alfresco area, which will be very gentle in its imposition, as you can see here. And then importantly as well, the branding of the site is about respecting it. A bit like the Premier Mill Hotel that we did in Katanning, it's about telling the story of Ezio Luisini and the winery, and that will come through in the branding and the way that it's done. Sorry, 3 minutes to cover off something which is really exciting, and about 4 years of work has gone into it. I'm happy to address those management issues if the committee would like me to address those items that were spoken about in the previous deputation as well.
Thank you very much, Nigel. We're all ready to ask you questions regarding that, so I'll let you go first. So it really was the hours of operation, which of course included setting up and cleanup, and the service vehicle access and the timing of the vehicle access. I would also like to ask you whether or not you're anticipating having weddings at this particular venue. So if you could address those issues, please.
Sure. Maybe I'll pick up that last one, Mr. Chairman. We don't intend for this to be a function centre. We're not in that business, and we're certainly not looking for weddings to be occurring on the site, and we won't be catering for them. The idea is to create a community cafe and to activate this beautiful part of the Lake Gullalal precinct in a building that's really, frankly, been doing nothing for a long, long period of time. So no functions, no weddings. That's not the idea of the venue at all. In terms of trading hours, that's a really important one for us for the commercial viability of the site, to have the full range of trading hours which are proposed to be approved. Now, just putting that in context, it is a cafe. So, one of the reasons why you open at 6 a.m. is to cater for those early walkers and runners. And again, it's not very intense activity. It's the quietest part of the day. It's very, very low levels of utilisation, but it just provides that community amenity in a quiet way. So the trading hours are important because there's a significant investment here that's being made. Heritage sites like these are expensive to invest in, and we've done a lot of them, and they're often the most difficult to get a return from because of the amount of money that goes into them. So the viability around the trading hours model is really, really important. At the back end of the day, which is what I call the 5 to 10 p.m, the core part of that will typically be 5 to 8 p.m, but it is about the early family dinner and encouraging people to come down, recreate in the local area, and have a casual family meal. So the trading hours really are quite important to us, and they are critical for us to be able to go ahead with the development. I would like to say that. But there are things that we can do to manage the concerns around those, around the impact of those trading hours. So the previous speakers mentioned the delivery trucks and the waste management. Those are things that we can work with those providers and suppliers to agree to timings that are most suitable for a residential amenity. So those things can definitely be worked around. In terms of the car parking, I think one of the previous speakers mentioned that people may be parking on the side of the road there at the moment on weekends when they go running or recreating on the local pathways. I haven't seen a lot of that personally. I have spent a lot of time on the site, but I admit I've normally been down there on weekdays. But what's critical for the committee to understand is at the moment, the big car park that you can see in the plans there is locked off to the public. It is closed and it is not accessible. So we will be opening up the 83 odd car bays for the use of the cafe. Now, an important thing to understand there was a concern that the car park might not cater for the number of patrons, we are absolutely confident that it will. And the reason for that is cafes typically only peak once or twice a day, and most of our cafes run on average at about 40% occupancy. The other interesting thing about cafes is car parks turn over with a much higher level of frequency than, say, a restaurant where people go for a block period of time, 4 or 5 hours, and they lock up the bays. So there's a very, very high period of turnover. And just to provide an analogy to a residential area, which I think is very similar to this, would be Deepwater Point Reserve. Similar but not similar. Deepwater Point Reserve has a lot more intense and competing uses. Right next to a site that we have, which is a similar size, there is a boat ramp, there is recreation, there is also running trails, etc., and there's only 52 car bays, which are not car bays to be allocated for trailers. And it's also directly adjacent to a residential area with the similar trading hours. We've never had a complaint about the trading hours because we do manage the trucks and the cleaning and those sorts of things to suit the residential area, and it fits the amenity very, very well. So I would like to provide assurance that we can overcome the valid and important concerns of those residents with the management plans that are actually proposed to be incorporated into the approval.
Thank you very much. Nigel, would it be proposed that you apply for a liquor licence for this venue?
Yeah, we do have liquor licences as part of our cafe restaurant licence venues. The intent in all and every occasion is to never create a drinking venue. We are not interested in running taverns or pubs or creating visitation based solely around drinking. So typically it varies between 1% and 3% of our revenues, and liquor is a complement to have, usually with an evening meal or sometimes with lunch on weekends. It's a convenience item and a complement rather than a core part of the offering.
Thank you very much. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Nigel? Thank you, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nigel, for responding to the deputation before you. I just had a quick question in relation to the substantial commencement. The development approval is for 2 years. Is that sufficient time for you to commence?
Yes, we're actually quite keen to commence. We've been planning this project for 4 years, so a lot of work has gone into it, and we're at a point where we'd like to start.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, please? No, thank you very much, Nigel.
Thank you.
We'll now move to item 2.11. We'll just get Commissioner Brooks back in the room. Thank you. So we move to deputation on the Section 31 reconsideration of the endorsement of a survey strata plan at Lot 39, number 10, and Lot 40, number 12, Warwick Street, St James. It's item 3.9 on the agenda. We're going to be joined over Zoom by Benedict McCarthy, David Woodcock, and Patricia Woodcock.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to talk on behalf of the Woodcock family. We are seeking a reduction of the public open space contribution for this property. The Woodcock family have lived on the subject site for in excess of 50 years and owned the property for 50 years. Of the 6 survey strata lots that are intended for the subject site, 3 are going to be retained by the Woodcock family. Each of the members will take a home each. Kay Woodcock has a severely disabled son who needs to be accounted for, as well as an elderly mother who needs to be accounted for. So the intent is to rejoin back on this property as a family. And therefore, we feel it's quite unfair for public open space contribution to be charged for them to retain their land and to continue to live on their land. We provided an assessment of the public open space in the local area, as you can see on the screen before you. The square in the middle is the subject property. The white dotted line is in accordance with Livable Neighbourhoods 2009 as an 800-metre walkable catchment. And then the blue delineated line is actually what is left of the St James suburb after using the DPLH's assessment in terms of land that is within the City of Canning, as not all of St James is in the City of Canning, and also the adjoining suburb of Bentley can also not be used to calculate public open space. So as you can see, it's a very unorthodox, small and slim area that is used for the assessment of the public open space. Therefore, we think this is a little bit unfair and inconsistent with how the actual ground will be used to assess the public open space in the area, and particularly for people and occupants of that property who will be looking to use public open space within the future. Based on this, the Woodcock family are not seeking this to be a profit-driven exercise. It is their family property. They are not developers. They are not seeking to make profit. In fact, of the 3 lots they intend to sell, they have already been accepted and offered 12 months ago prior to the current housing boom. And as they are not seeking to make a profit on this property, they will be adhering to those agreed costs or the sale prices, despite what the current market value is that they could properly get for those 3 lots on today's market. They simply are just looking to go to sell these lots onto the existing people who are wishing to buy them. This is only going to assist with providing affordable housing, particularly in through that area, as they're not looking to make profits, but simply just to pay for the cost of developing the site so they can move back to their family home. With the current housing crisis, there's a significant need to unlock new lots. And as these lots are ready to go, they have been developed, retaining walls have been built, the access leg has been constructed, everything else has been completed other than this matter, which we would like to fulfil. Therefore, based on using DPLH methodology, we propose to the Statutory Planning Committee that we apply the PO's contribution to the 3 lots being sold only. And using the current valuation, this comes to a revised value of $45,773.52, rather than the recommendation made by the officers in the DPLH report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Could you just repeat that figure again? $45,000.
$45,773.52. We calculated this on 3 lots at 263 square metres, being a total of 789 square metres, then applying the pro rata figure based on the DPLH assessment and the valuation done by Landgate earlier this year. That is the figure that we've come up with using the methodology by DPLH.
Thank you very much. Committee members, are there any questions, please, at Ben? Member Harmon, thank you.
Ben, is there the 3 lots that you've mentioned have sold off the plan? Are they all to one side? Looking at the plan, are they all off to one side? Because you've got 3 lots separated by a common property driveway up the middle, 3 lots either side.
Yes. Look, I don't know which of the 3 lots have been sold. I know the 2 at the rear are to be retained by the family members, and then I think one of the middle lots. So yes, the 2 front lots and one of the middle lots, I understand, are the ones that have been pre-sold some 12 months ago, at obviously whatever the market rate was back then. And the Woodcock family have decided not to go back to the market. They think that they're fair and reasonable offers that were made 12 months ago, and being the good people they are sticking to those that agreed sale price.
And just a follow-up to that, given the intention of the family is to retain 3 of the 6, has any consideration been given to keeping those 3 on one lot, essentially creating a 4-lot subdivision?
Yeah, look, that's a very interesting point. When we submitted a development application for the strata dwelling some 4 years ago, had we been notified that there was going to be some public open space contribution that could have real severe impact on how they develop their properties, particularly for Kay with her aged mother and disabled son who need those extra funds to actually put into the house to make them disabled friendly. Had we been advised of the public open space that would be applied, we would have been looking at doing keeping both lots separate and done 3 lot subdivision on each one. But we were not actually advised by the city county at that point in time, so proceeded on with the subdivision, which is why we now find ourselves where we are.
Thank you. Any further questions, please? Oh, well, thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you.
We now move to item 2.12, Shire of Northam Local Planning Scheme number 6, amendment number 19. Was request for certification to advertise. It's item 4.2 on the agenda. Joined over Zoom by Ross Montgomery, Michael Tailforth and Jack Woods. There's a PowerPoint presentation as well.
Good morning, Ross, and good morning, Michael. If you can hear me, can you please turn your video on?
Good morning.
Good morning,
Thanks very
Ross.
much.
Good morning, Michael. You're here to address the committee regarding item 3.9. There is a PowerPoint presentation which will appear on the screen shortly. If you could just indicate when you want the slides moved forward, please, and you've got 2 minutes in which to address the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to make this deputation to the committee. We are representing the landowner, Jack Woods and Gemma Ebert, and we also understand that the Shire of Northam has initiated this amendment back on the 18th of October 2023. So it's taken over a year for it to get to this stage. It's a confidential item, so we're a little bit in the dark as to the nature of the officer's report. However, looking at the key matters, I think it's fair to say that the considerations that have been identified are matters which would usually be addressed at the detailed structure planning stage. I would take issue with the statement that there has been a deferral of all technical matters to the structure planning stage. That's an incorrect statement. We have met at a very early stage with officers from the DWER and took them on site. We went through a whole lot of issues with them. We've met with them successively and attempted to understand and also take on board their suggestions in terms of the scheme amendment. So that statement isn't really accurate. In terms of the context for the site, next slide, thank you. So with the proposal and the process, Land Insights has undertaken preliminary studies for the site. This has been information which has shaped the amendment and indicated that we needed to set aside 127 hectares of the site as environmental conservation zone. Very important. At the moment, this land is farmed. It's no conservation mechanisms in the scheme at all. So we see this as one of the big environmental outcomes of the amendment. Next slide, thank you. The justification is that it's a pocket of land. It's surrounded by rural residential zone. This advice we received from officers from the early stages that the local planning strategy they prepared justified the amendment, and we've proceeded to implement or proceed with the amendment to implement the local planning strategy, which has since been reviewed and is still found to be a sound approach for the area. The rural residential would allow us to come up with a site-sensitive design that would set aside important areas for conservation and would also allow an expansion of the residential population to support the One Dowie town site, which has got facilities which are in need of some additional residents in that area. It's reaching a senescent stage. Next slide, please. So basically, we believe this amendment needs to be advanced with priority. It should be advertised, and the submissions that come forward can be considered the merits of the proposal, and we can also get on and do some structure planning to deliver a good outcome.
Thank you very much, Ross. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Ross or Michael? No questions. Thank you very much for the deputation.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
We move to item 2.13, City of Stirling Local Planning Scheme number 130. It's item 4.3 on the agenda. It's before us to make a recommendation to the Minister, joined by Brendan Foley from Lawyer.
Hello, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Brendan. Welcome to the Statutory Planning Committee meeting. You're going to address the committee on the City of Stirling Local Planning Scheme number 3, Amendment number 130. That's item 4.3 on the agenda. We do have your written submission as well, which is on the agenda and accessed by all members. So you've got 3 minutes in which to address the committee. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Chairman. I act for a large group of local residents who reside directly opposite the proposed amendment area. There are more than 30 residents within that group. My clients don't support the originally proposed rezoning to R60 from the Department of Communities, however, are supportive of the proposed rezoning to R40 as recommended by the Council of the City of Stirling. You'll note in my written submission that my clients and their neighbours consistently advocated against the extremely high concentration of public housing in this part of North Beach due to significant social problems which flowed onto and affected the wider community over many years. And since the facility closed in around 2014, the area has been relatively quiet from an amenity perspective. This isn't just views of my clients, this is supported in evidence. For example, since the facility closed, offences against the person dropped 29%, sexual offences dropped 47%, assaults against police officers dropped 36%, and violence restraining orders dropped 22%, and family assault offences dropped 46%. The concern from the community was that the Department of Communities were seeking to reintroduce a large number of public housing tenants back into the area through the R60 coding, effectively to say that the percentage was diluted by simply increasing the potential dwelling numbers to 300 with a replacement of the 47 historical Department of Communities houses. Consistent with state policy and good planning principles, density should be located within areas close to critical services, support agencies, and high-frequency transport. And this area has none of those things. Rezoning to R40 would restrict the development to single and root dwellings of a size where people might be more inclined to have a vehicle to travel to access those services. The city's housing strategy specifically contemplates an increase in density only in activity centres and activity corridors, and explicitly states that it does not advocate for the recoding of our low density suburbs. And we think a modest increase from R30 to R40 is generally consistent with that statement in the housing strategy. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Brendan? No questions. Thank you very much, Brendan.
Thank you. Cheers.
We move to item 2.14 on the same matter, City of Stirling Local Planning Scheme number 3, amendment number 130. We're going to be joined by Andrew Lafort from the City of Stirling via Zoom.
Good morning, Andrew. If you can hear me, can you please turn your video on? Good morning, Andrew. If you can hear us, can you please turn your video on? Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, it looks like we might have a communication issue with Andrew at the City of Stirling. I might just take a moment to phone him on his mobile to determine what that issue might be. If you'd like to move on to the written, oh no, there we go. I think we've got connection with Andrew now. Andrew, you'll just need to unmute, please.
Unmute yourself, please, Andrew. We're still having those technical issues.
We are. No, we can't hear you, Andrew. Might just try and connect in Andrew over the mobile phone. And oh no, he seems to have unmuted now. Andrew, you're unmuted. Can we try again now, please? Can you try and speak to us, Andrew, if you can hear me? You appear to be unmuted.
Andrew, can you hear us?
Let me just try and get him on the phone.
Thank you.
That's okay. So we can't, you appear to be unmuted now, but we still can't hear you. What I might do, if you're comfortable, is just put you on speakerphone on the mobile and you can just deliver your deputation that way if you're comfortable. Let's just try this just a second. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we're just going to proceed with Andrew via speakerphone on the mobile now and see whether that technology works. Andrew, can you just speak and we'll see if the boardroom can hear you?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Andrew. You'll have to speak up. Andrew, you've got 3 minutes to address the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies for that. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Andrew Lafort. I'm the manager of City Future at the City of Stirling. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. This deputation relates to confidential item 4.3, scheme amendment 130 to local planning scheme number 3. The 2 hectare site, state government owned, was previously used for public housing by the Department of Communities, who now propose to develop the site for social, affordable and private housing. At its ordinary council meeting held on 30th of July 2024, following public consultation, the City of Stirling Council considered the amendment and resolved to support it in a modified form by amending the scheme map to an R40 density in lieu of the proposed R60 density. And the following reasons are, firstly, that the City received a number of submissions regarding expressing concern about the implications of the upcoding, detracting from the amenity of the area, including future built form, traffic, parking and landscaping. Secondly, that an R40 density code is consistent with development potential that was communicated to the local community by the Department of Communities from 2017. And thirdly, that an R40 density code, in conjunction with the requirement for a local development plan, will address issues raised in community submissions. In 2018, the then Department of Housing, in recognition of the need to develop the subject site, undertook a series of community engagement exercises to inform future redevelopment options for the site. At this time, the DOH identified a desire to prepare an LDP to facilitate a coordinated planning approach to build form on the site, and an indicative LDP was prepared by the Department of Community to support the scheme amendment, and that was advertised to the community with the scheme amendment documentation earlier this year. The preparation of an LDP for the site is appropriate, meets the circumstances outlined in the Planning and Development Regulations 2015, specifically lots where specific vehicle and egress control is required and lots with particular site constraints. As it's likely that the site could be developed with narrow lots with no minimum frontage requirements, it's important that vehicle access and egress is controlled. In addition, there are many existing mature trees that should be retained in the development with appropriately controlled built form. Including the requirement for an LDP as part of Amendment 130 constitutes orderly and proper planning, as it will ensure that regardless of whether the site is subdivided or developed entirely by the Department of Communities with no subdivision, that the requirement for an LDP will be maintained. There's a concern that if this requirement is not included in Schedule 12, that development may occur in an uncoordinated manner. So in summary, the City requests that Scheme Amendment 130 is supported with changes, including a density code of R40 and inclusion of the requirement for an LDP in Schedule 12, as shown in the amendment documentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Committee members, are there any questions, please, of Andrew? No questions. Thank you very much for the deputation, Andrew.
Thank you.
Committee members, we move to item 215 and 215 to 229, applications all dealing with Coppin Road. I will take those as read. We move to item 2.30, which is a written deputation from the City of Bayswater on the City of Bayswater's local strategy, which is before us today for endorsement at item 3.8. Again, I will take that as read. That leaves one deputation. It's from the City of Rockingham. I have agreed with the City of Rockingham that this is to be a confidential deputation to the committee for reasons that will become quite clear. In that particular case, Helen, I will ask you to leave the room, please. Sorry. Yeah. Member Franklin, please, if you could leave the room. We will need to go behind closed doors temporarily just to deal with this particular matter. Could I please have a resolution that we go behind closed doors? Moved by Commissioner Cole, seconded by Commissioner Adair. No dissent. Thank you very much. So we'll just wait for the meeting to be closed. For members of the public, we will come back to you in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back. We move to item 3, non-confidential items for discussion, decision or noting, and item 3.1, the precinct structure plan for the Rockingham Strategic Centre. which is before the for determination. We're joined by Justin, Aidan and Lucy.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I'm just waiting for some to come back.
This one is live.
Supposed to be. Yeah. That means, I'm not sure if it's a. Just go. Sorry. We're live on Zoom.
We're live on YouTube.
We're live now.
Thank you. So we're moving to item 3.1.
She's watching.
I have got the first question. Following the deputation, you heard the deputation. The city have requested that modification 26 be removed. In other words, the recommendation was to remove clauses 2.2.4, 1A and C. And I would like to comment on that. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the first time that's been raised as an issue in our discussions with the mods and the like. They were happy with obviously the residential changes with the lot sizes requirement. That said, I think the officer recommendation for that to be removed is still correct. As you look at 2.24B, it the built form and the development proposal should set the size of the lot versus having a prescribed minimum in the from an officer recommendation.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions, please, of the officers? No questions. Thank you, Commissioner Lakey.
On the same question, I'm going to ask then. So, in a practical sense, what would be the impact? In a practical sense, I understand on the ground.
Through the chair, I suppose what it's doing, it's blurring the line between development and land assembly. We think the development should set the size for the area as opposed to proposing or prescribing a minimum lot size regardless of what is proposed. And I think the clause does clarify that the development sets what you achieve as a lot size. So I can understand what they're saying, and we have discussed that extensively with the residential area, where they wanted to set a minimum lot size before you could do other matters.
Thank you. Any further questions, please? If not, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a move and a second to adopt the recommendation? Moved by Commissioner Cole, seconded by Commissioner Brooks. No dissent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Move to item 3.2, the precinct structure plan for Sardinia District Centre. Before us for determination, we're joined by Catherine. Member Franklin back in the room. Welcome back, Claire. Darren, you've heard the deputation. There was a request to remove the sustainability ratings regarding Green Star for a shopping centre. If you could comment on that first, and then any other comments, please.
Catherine will respond to that element.
So achieving a Green Star rating is an increasingly common requirement in Western Australia. Sustainability of the built environment aligns with policy objectives of SPPs 7, 7.2 and 4.2. Both state and local governments are aiming to increase sustainability initiatives, and there are a number of state endorsed structure plans that include Green Star rating requirements. These include the Canning Bridge Activity Centre structure plan, which has a 4 and 5 star requirement depending on the precinct. The 140 Stirling PSP has provisions for a 5 star Green Star performance level. The Davis Park structure plan has a requirement for 4 star, and also the South Perth Activity Centre plan has 4 star minimum. So local governments are also including requirements in policy. Fremantle and South Perth both have local planning policies requiring a minimum 4 star. Just to address, I think there was a comparison about the R codes as well. So to address that, while the R codes do require dwellings to exceed the minimum, they talk about NAITH's requirement by half a star. That would apply to residential only. So Green Star rating would apply to all development, including the commercial elements. In addition, the NAITH's only looks at energy, whereas Green Star looks at water, waste, indoor environment, and a number of other elements as well. And yeah, just another example, Development WA has also got a policy requiring specific levels of Green Star ratings for their projects. So if the committee is concerned with the application of a 5-star requirement, consider a 4-star one as well.
Thank you very much, committee members. Commissioner Cole, thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up to that question, thank you, Chair. I think that one of the points that the applicant was raising was that this is an existing commercial asset and that they are going to find that retrofitting quite difficult. Is that something that you could respond to?
Yeah, so the existing shopping centre has a development approval over it, which is currently under construction. So that was given approval by the JDAP prior to the structure plan being in place. So it would not require, like they have that development approval, it wouldn't require apply retrospectively. I guess future developments it may if they want to expand further, but this is a fairly substantial expansion. So yeah, this one could be built as
essentially
approved.
a brand new rebuild that's not open yet. So
Yeah.
refurbishments probably not in the lifetime period of the PSP, to be honest.
Yeah, true.
I mean, just to clarify that there's the 2 shopping centres, there's the redevelopment site and then there's the older centre. Would the 5-star apply across the older?
Yeah, so there's no current approved expansion of that. There is an Aldi there which was recently built, so whether or not comprehensive redevelopment of that site would occur in the next 10 years, it's unknown. But yes, it would apply to that portion. Yeah.
I guess, and that's part of the reason for, I guess, something of a concession that perhaps a 4-star rating is inappropriate.
Hold that thought. I inspected the site yesterday and it's a construction site. So they're rebuilding part of the shopping centre now. It wouldn't apply retrospectively.
No, that's what approval and it's commenced.
Commissioner Brooks.
I just was wondering if they completed a water management strategy. I couldn't see any evidence of anything apart from a couple of comments about water capacity and the slightly odd text that they've got in ESP. But have they done any investigations into water management, water sensitive urban design, anything?
Yeah, no, they haven't. I guess I would summarise that in this area, there's not the water table's not that high. There's a portion where it is sort of in the north residential area, but that's just residential, so it's unlikely that would be disturbed.
Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines of the opportunity to integrate water sensitive urban design into the streetscapes and improve amenity and all those other aspects that helps with.
Yeah.
Agencies didn't, it wasn't prepared. Agencies also didn't ask for it.
Yeah, that's right. There wasn't. It wasn't asked for by her. And I guess the other thing is that the layout is fairly well established. The streetscape in this area, like it's unlikely to change. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any further? Member Harmon, thank you.
Just back on the Green Star, the other examples that you gave with the other local governments and their PSPs, were they similar to this? And this one is core, so the Green Star requirement applies to the core only. Yeah. And the core in this instance is just the shopping centre.
Just the shopping centre and the commercial site in the eastern part.
Yeah, correct. That's just commercial, right?
Yes.
And 2/3 of it is already subject to the DA that's arguably substantially commenced, so you're unlikely to gain much. But the others are, the others are more residential mixed use. So yeah, much higher ratio of residential compared to commercial. If that's the question.
Yeah, we're getting indications from people who are watching, just asking if members could speak up. Thank you. Any further questions, please? Not, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover and a seconder that we adopt the recommendation?
For debate purposes or from?
Well, it can be for debate. Is there any foreshadowed amendment?
There's a foreshadowed amendment.
Move and second the recommendation, then we'll deal with the foreshadowed amendment. Moved by Commissioner Cole, seconded by Member Harmon. No dissent to that being moved. To that being adopted. Now, could I have the foreshadowed amendment, please?
Chair, I haven't actually given much thought, but it's to change it to a 4-star rating as opposed to a 5-star rating for sustainability.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Commissioner Lakey.
Add to that, sorry, that it be 4-star design, right? Because it's currently 5-star design, so it'd be 4-star design.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Adair, seconded by Commissioner Lakey. Is there any further discussion on that matter? Thank you.
Can I just ask a question, because we've talked about it being the shopping centres, which appears to be a bit of a moot point, but there's also the sort of R160 area. So I just wanted to see if Dale had any, Catherine or Dale had any comment in relation to removal of that in relation to the other mixed use sites.
I think the proposal was to be consistent across the precinct, not to have a higher rating in the frame.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, please? With that amendment, I'll put any dissent to the amendment. So the amendment now forms part of the resolution, the modifications. Is there any further discussion on the modified recommendation? Is there any dissent? No, thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine and Dale. Commissioner Lakey, I'll have to ask you to leave the. Move to item 3.3, the precinct structure plan for Nedlands Village. In Nedlands with us for determination, and Jeremy is joining Dale. Thank you. We heard the deputation that was fairly well in support of the application. No request from my memory that they wanted any amendments or modifications. Are there any other matters you want to add to the report?
I don't think we need to add anything at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions of the officers, please? Thank you.
Just wanted to find out the status of the discharge of memorials on site and whether that has any implications on
You would update the other day.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yes, so the Supreme Court has made the decision. It's just finalising the process through Landgate, which unfortunately required a few extra signatures. So I've been advised by the applicant that that's happening over the next week or so. I don't believe it impacts the ability to
particularly note approval actually the final. So.
Thank you. Any further questions, please? If not, could I have a mover and a seconder that we adopt the recommendation, please? Moved by Member Harmon, seconded by Member Knight. No dissent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Move to item 3.4, the standard structure plan for Coppin Road, Mundaring. With us for determination, we're joined by Andrew and Gemma and Robert. We had a number of deputations on this particular matter. So what I'll ask Robert and his team to do is just to comment on the deputations firstly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to turn over to Andrew just to comment on 3 or 4 things that cropped up in the deputations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. There were perhaps 4 things that came out of the deputations that we'd like to comment on. Firstly, with density and the comments made on lot sizes and density. So we have assessed this as an R5 density structure plan. The R5 aligns with the scheme. The scheme provides for R5 density in this location, and that's our main comment on density. In terms of a second thing, retention of vegetation came up. We saw a plan on the screen that did show trees and a subdivision design. We just want to make the point that that doesn't actually form part of the structure plan. We note the applicant's commitment to retain trees. The structure plan encourages that. We've got a modification to ensure that subdivision follows through with tree retention. Yes, there's a separate environmental process as well in the background. A third point was the road connection and the deputation from the adjoining landowner. I feel the applicant commented on that. I won't say anything more at this stage about that. The perimeter road, the applicant also commented on that. We have assessed the structure plan, which doesn't propose a perimeter road under SBP 3.7. We can comment on that further if you wish. We believe the proposal is capable of support under SBP 3.7. It provides improved road connections to existing cul-de-sacs in the area. That is about it from us, Chairman. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Andrew, can you recall the date, roughly the date of the amendment that took this to R5?
Through the chair, sorry, 2013.
2013, thank you.
It wasn't an amendment either, it was their scheme.
The scheme. So it's been in the scheme since 2013.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions, please, from members? Thank you, Commissioner Adair.
Thank you, Chair. It may be that you can answer this or someone else in the room. I'm curious to know what is actually going on with this scheme, because it would appear that the local authority does not want to support any development in their shire, even though it's actually their framework says that they should. Are they progressing anything to review it? Are they? No.
I can't comment as an area team where the shire is at with their scheme review, but I'm not aware of any proposal to certainly downcode this area under the scheme. So
it's not that so much. I'm just curious. Like this, they didn't come today. They haven't made a deputation, but they don't support this.
There's a bit of change occurring. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of the change occurring at Mundaring at the moment, but they don't currently have a planning manager. So the 2 officers that were involved in this application are no longer at the shire either. We did advise them though that it was coming to SPC today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Lakey, thank you. And please speak up.
Yeah, well, will do. Thank you. Just one question regarding DFAS. You mentioned obviously DFAS has some concerns or made some comments. You've made a comment there that you're confident that these can be dealt with through the management plan. I wonder if you just expand on that and that why you're confident. If you have subsequent engagement with DFAS, are they confident that it can be dealt with in the management plan?
I think so. DFAS's role in this is an advisory, state government advisory agency. We have regard to DFAS our own assessment under the discretion that is provided by the policy as well. We accept the applicant's position on the how this can be supported under SPP 3.7. Individual applications for subdivision will also be required to demonstrate adherence to SPP 3.7, and a lot of that will be through providing for road connections, and this structure plan is just providing a coordinated framework for subdivisions to be assessed. Did you have anything to add to that, Gemma?
Yeah, I suppose DFS's comments were also based on the previous state planning policy. So we have gone through the new planning policy and the new guidelines and considered their comments against what that framework looks like and how that will be, I suppose, placed on subdivisions in the future. So our modifications are reflective of looking at what DFS's comments were, particularly around the broader locational requirements and vegetation classification and those sorts of things, and then looking at how that fits for future subdivision applications. In respect to the perimeter road discussion, there's obviously the acceptable solutions, which indicate a perimeter road is desirable. The secondary part to that is that fire service access routes, which run around the perimeter of the subdivision or structure plan area, would be the next preferable option. The Shire of Mundaring, from having previous applications, aren't particularly supportive of fire service access routes. It's a maintenance burden. And in that respect, we then looked at, okay, well, what is the purpose of a perimeter road? Its purpose is to provide hazard separation to the structure plan area, and in respect to the lot sizes proposed, that's achieved through the design of the structure plan and future subdivision applications. So we did step through that process and look at, okay, well, what's the intent here? What's the outcome-based approach as well on policy and the guidelines? And that's the conclusion and the recommendation.
Thank you. Any further questions? I've got one further question, Andrew. Obviously, the staging plan shows that if stage 1 is completed, then you have access out of the area in the event that there is a bushfire, two-way access, 2 points of access. How can we guarantee that stage 1 goes ahead as one stage of the subdivision to create the required access roads?
I'll let Gemma start, and then perhaps I can.
Yes, my understanding is that the landowner that's pursuing this, he owns all the land within stage 1. So he's actively, he has an interest in developing that land. And that's the way they've designed the structure plan, is so that stage 1 will comply, and then stage 2 and 3, if they are opted into, can comply in their own right, or they can be left entirely as they are currently. But stage 1 is owned by the developer who's got the interest in pursuing it.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions, please? If not, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a move and a second that we adopt the recommendation?
Chair, through questions prior to the meeting, I did ask for some clarification on the wording of this recommendation. So I'd be happy to move the alternate recommendation, which actually adds words requiring that it come back to the Commission for further consideration after modifications.
Thank you. So that's a suggested modification to the wording. It is in the responses from departmental officers to Commissioner Adair's question. Can we move and second the original recommendation first, and we'll come back to that as a foreshadowed amendment? By Member Harman, seconded by Commissioner Cole. Thank you. Could we then foreshadow the amendment, please, Commissioner Adair?
Okay, I would like to propose an amendment that the resolution actually reads that the Statutory Planning Committee resolve under Schedule 2, Part 4, Clause 22, bracket 1, bracket B of the Planning Development, bracket Local Planning Scheme, close bracket Regulations 2015-1, require the Coppin Road Standard Structure Plan to be modified in accordance with the attached schedule of modifications, which is attachment 6, 2, require the modified Coppin Road Standard Structure Plan to be resubmitted to the Western Australian Planning Commission for consideration, and 3, advise the Shire of Mundaring and the applicant accordingly.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that amendment? Seconded by Commissioner Brooks. Is there any discussion on the amendment, please? I'll put the amendment. Is there any dissent to the amendment? Thank you. The amendment.
No dissent, but I just make some comments. I just wanted to address it because I think there's been a lot of community interest in this matter. We've had a lot of deputations today. And I think that in considering this item, I've gone back to the report after reading through the deputations and listened to what the deputies and residents have had to say today. I think that there's a few key points for me that come out, that the locality has been identified as subdivision for a substantial period of time. It has been in the scheme since 2013. I do think that we've talked about the perimeter road, but we can clearly see through the staging that access is provided through each stage of the development, that the issue raised by the non-participant landowner, Dr. Stewart today, has been addressed by dealing with that through stage 3. I think it's important to note that Hill Lane is referenced as becoming a public road as part of that access. In terms of the public open space, I've taken on board what the proponent has said around and the Shire's views around not wanting to add additional public open space, which could introduce further bushfire risk. And I think that when you look at this in that sort of planning framework context, in terms of the access provided and the modifications that go to the issue of habitat tree retention, I think that it has found a balance. I think it is good to review this again with the modifications, but I think that the proponent today has been able to demonstrate how they have dealt with a lot of those issues that have been raised through deputations.
Commissioner Cole, Commissioner Adair.
Thank you, Chair. In addition to what Commissioner, the Deputy Chair, has said, I think the issue of the methodology of assessment, particularly environmentally, was put into question. These are rigorous processes that are not just seen by us, and I think it's only fair that it be noted that we take advice on these matters from the other agencies that actually do the assessments. And the federal process is a separate legislation. The development will not go ahead if they don't receive that approval. So it's not something that would fetter our decision making.
Thank you. Is there any dissent to the modified recommendation? Thank you very much. I'd like to acknowledge also this is Robert's last meeting of SPC before he leaves the department on Friday. So Robert, many years of service to the Commission, the Department, the Commission and its committees. So thank you very much for that on behalf of the Commission.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Good luck for the future. Thanks. Okay. So we move to item 3.5, subdivision of lot 301 Stockport. We had a deputation on this particular matter when joined by Catriona. Welcome. Andrew, I assume you're taking the running on this one?
Sorry, Chairman, I missed that missed the question.
Would you like to comment on the deputation, please?
Sorry, yes. We are well across the applicant's position, Chairman. We have assessed the application based on the current situation, and the current situation, there's commentary in our report, and it really is the recommendation of our report that there is a problem with access. The subdivision does not achieve 2 points of access as required by the guidelines. The western access is the issue. It's relying on a third-party arrangement, private arrangement, does not provide public access. We are well aware of the more intensified outcome envisaged for the broader land to the north, and that would, if implemented as planned, would completely change the access situation. This application, in our view, is premature.
Thank you. The way the recommendation is written doesn't close the door on those matters being addressed and a further application being received. Is that correct?
The way that it is written that doesn't close the door, because my view on it is that it is the reasons are based on the current situation. So if the current situation changes, it will be a fresh assessment and a fresh determination.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Committee members, any questions, please? We have a recommendation before us. Then do I have a mover and a seconder that we adopt the recommendation? By Member Knight, seconded by Commissioner Brooks. No dissent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 4.6. Robert is joined by June. Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Application for the conversion of the winery to a cafe at lot 801, number Drive, Kingsley. For determination, we had three deputations on this particular matter. Any comments firstly on the deputations, please?
Chairman, all the deputation points raised are noted. June and I are confident that the conditions that we have attached to this approval are all capable of dealing with those issues. There is one suggestion I would like to make to Zitty about perhaps just augmenting the advice note, which relates to the noise management plan. And that is to add an additional point there, which raises the issue that requires consideration to be given to the timing of waste collection at the premises so as to minimize impact on residential properties. So that's a fairly simple addition to the advice note.
Good. Thank you very much. Are there any questions, please, of Robert? Thank you, Commissioner Adair.
Thank you, Chair. Robert, do you believe that, what about deliveries? Can that be identified? Is it already there?
Yeah, the wording in the condition itself does talk about delivery of goods, waste collection, music, entertainment, noise, etc. So again, the scope of that condition can very easily deal with the issue.
Thank you.
So, Robert, you're suggesting an amendment to one of the advice notes?
Yes.
So can we just go back to that so that we can get the wording?
That's advice note number 3 in regard to condition 7.
Thank you. Any further discussion, please? No, we have a modified recommendation. Do I have a mover and a second to adopt the recommendation, please? Moved by Commissioner Adair, seconded by Member Moore. No dissent. Thank you very much. And we come to item 3.7. Thank you, June. Thank you, Robert. Shire of Merredin draft local planning strategy. Application to advertise, joined by Mark. Good afternoon, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, we also meant to have Dave Stable on Zoom from the Bunbury office.
One matter we didn't have a deputation on. Thank you. And David over Zoom. Over to you, Mark. Thanks. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you like us to give a brief on this? Take specific questions?
Well, I read the report and thought that was fairly straightforward. Appreciate a briefing, or everyone happy with the report? I think we're all happy with it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions of Mark, please? No. I have a recommendation before us. Do I have a move and a second that we adopt the recommendation? Moved by Member Moore, seconded by Member Harmon. Consent. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. The strategy should note that I started primary school. I couldn't find that. The school now closed.
Build back.
We move to item 3.8, the City of Bayswater Local Planning Strategy for Endorsement, joined by Rowan, Christine and Annika. There was one written deputation on this particular one. Is there any comment on the deputation from our staff?
Thank you, Chair. No comment on the deputation from me. Did either of you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you very much. Anything you'd like to add to the report, please? No, thank you. Any questions of the officers, please? Well, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a move and a second that we adopt the recommendation? Moved by Commissioner Cole, seconded by Member Knight. Consent. 3.9, Section 31 reconsideration. Endorsement of the survey strata plan, Warwick Street, St James. We're joined by Ryan. Thank you. There will be discussion on this one. We have heard the deputation. I'll ask you to comment on that shortly, Ryan. The first question we have, though, is obviously this is a refer back under Section 31. Without breaching the confidentiality of mediation, is it possible to let us know whether or not a compromise was reached at mediation?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly limited in terms of discussing anything at mediation. However, the applicant's Section 31 package, which is the report, that's going to some of the issues brought to campus.
Thank you. Could we then have a comment, please, on the applicant's suggestion that it should be $45,753.02 based on the formula Ben espoused to us?
Certainly, and I may just start by, I guess, unpacking the request, given it is quite unique and nuanced. So certainly the review itself focuses on the Form 1C process, which is the back end of the conditions involved in the subdivision. And namely, the review arose through the, I guess, not supporting the endorsement of the diagram of survey for the 6 survey strata plan lots. In this regard, the focus of consideration is typically limited and does not ordinarily extend to then a full merits review. And that's noting that at the time of the initial approval, review rights are afforded to applicants. In light of this, the proposed recommendation considers the factual changes and circumstances which have arisen since the original approval in February 2021. In short, this hinges on the removal of 2 freehold lots from the overall gross subdivisible area, which occurred through a separate approval, a freehold subdivision, which was approved prior to this application. We believe this has a meaningful impact on the condition and which ultimately informs, I guess, the officer's recommendation. In addressing the applicant's case, certainly it naturally extends to a merits assessment. We respectfully disagree with the applicant's points, and that's for the reasons as outlined in the report. While I won't go into detail on every matter, but through the chair, as you've touched upon, I guess the key difference of opinion is the basis of the POS contribution. The applicant prefers an 800-metre walkable catchment, which is ultimately based on 3 lots. We certainly prefer the city's POS strategy, which considers this issue in detail. In that regard, it bases the assessment on suburbs as a locality. The strategy itself identifies a shortfall in St James, and this instrument is considered fit for purpose. It was approved in 2015. However, the actions have been carried forward through the local planning strategy in 2017. And really the basis of the recommendation in respect to the reduction is to remove those 2 lots. which were, I guess, excised and created through the freehold subdivision, which does offer a fairly reasonable compromise in this instance, we believe.
Thank you very much. Members, open for discussion. Jessica. Thank you, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Chair. One of the comments the deputation made was that if they proceeded with the application in a different way, if they'd known that at the time, then that wouldn't have triggered the POS requirement. And obviously that's the way that they've carved the land up, and they would have kept the 3 lots, etc., etc. And that's what's caused this issue, the way they've done it. So my question is, or A, is that correct? And the follow-up question is, if that is correct, then is the build form outcome exactly the same as what if they'd gone down a different plan?
Through the chair, thank you, Commissioner Lakey. I guess I can offer 2 or 3 observations in respect to that. Certainly, the requirement for public open space is an established practice that dates back to 1956. It's been consistently applied. In respect to, I guess, staging the subdivision, I guess that's where we find ourselves in this situation, noting that a 3-lot subdivision occurred. And really that is the principal basis of the proposed approach, by recognising that 2 lots have been removed, which has reduced the subdivisional area, which proportionally speaking reduces the contribution amount. And certainly we're here to assess the proposal in front of us, and I guess in accordance with SPP 3.6 principles. I guess the requirement for public open space as a standard development requirement is something that's not isolated to a certain form or tenure of subdivision. It can apply to a built strata development proposal, but certainly we're looking at a survey strata application.
Thank you. Member Harman.
Probably just to build on that and touching on Paul's point. So ignoring the subdivision, if a lot is capable, including the 2 lots that have been excised, is capable of 8 dwellings, for argument's sake, could someone in theory lodge a DA for 8 dwellings without subdividing?
Certainly could go through the chair, sorry.
Would it be approved?
Certainly it would be outside, it would be delegated most likely to the City of Canning. In that case, I can't speak for the city, but I guess just drawing back to that earlier point that in accordance with the state planning framework in terms of standard development requirements, Ash in lieu and public open space is a tried and tested formula.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole.
Just probably some comments about the approach. There's a mediation that's come back to us for reconsideration, and some of the issues that were put by the presenting the fact around circumstances that are not planning considerations, but issues around affordability, given that some of the lots are not being sold. I just wonder whether the mediation, obviously often there is a discussion to try to find a negotiated outcome, but it seems like the positions are still very much at odds. I was interested to know whether there had been discussion of those elements or any consideration given to it around the fact that the applicant is suggesting that this is not affordable for the family based on the fact that they're not selling 3 of the lots. Whether there had been any discussion about alternatives to them in terms of the lot subdivision versus group dwelling versus ancillary dwelling, etc.
Certainly, and through the chair, thank you, Commissioner Cole. We have had extensive discussions through that process. We're certainly mindful of the applicant's circumstances and do certainly sympathise. However, we are to apply the planning framework. In that respect, we have looked at this in some detail. Obviously, the approach put forward is quite nuanced, as you can see through the recommendation itself. We feel that it is a fairly balanced compromise, noting that we are at the back end of the subdivision. Certainly, it is open to the applicant to reevaluate their business or their approach, but noting some of the material in the deputation, they did indicate that they're towards the pointy end of their process, but that would be a question and certainly something open to them.
you. Any further questions, please? No further questions. We have a recommendation before us. Do I have a move and a seconder that we adopt the recommendation? Moved by Member Moore, seconded by Councillor Brooke. Is there any dissent? No dissent. Thank you very much. And Jessica. To item 4. And Statutory Planning Committee will now move to the consideration of confidential items. Doing so, I seek a move and a seconder that we close the meeting to members of the public. So I have a move. Summons by Member Franklin. No dissent. Thank you very much.